there's such this high level of collective effervescence, a high level of people enjoying being with other people, and there's no big beaver tail benefiting.
From NCPR, welcome to Northwards. People, ideas, and conversations from and about Northern New York, Vermont, and beyond. I'm Mitch Teich.
Support for the Northwards podcast comes from the J.C. Steiniger and M.E. McDonald Charitable Fund at Adirondack Community Foundation in support of the Adirondack Community Foundation, building stronger Adirondack communities. Okay, I don't really love Christmas music, but I do.
But you're simply having a wonderful Christmas time, so you're going to tell us about your connection to Christmas music.
Do you know the internet theory that that song actually starts off as Paul McCartney and friends doing some sort of witch's incantation, and then when they start doing the simply have is because other people came into the room and they need to act like they're caroling.
I had not heard that, no.
Now you know. I don't love Christmas music, partly because of working in retail, partly because of working in commercial radio, but when we finally have our Christmas tree up, I really do love singing a couple of snippets of Christmas tunes, like I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. And just do it as deep as I possibly can. Aaron thinks it's really funny. Just like the way I used to know. So it becomes sub-audible.
Yeah. It's like the neighbors downstairs are listening to it, and they have the bass turned really loudly.
I'm glad I got that out.
Christmas at the Shanty household.
We don't have many traditions, but that's one of them. And then I'll do it 45 times throughout the day.
Did we talk about Ottawa on this show last week, or were we just talking about Ottawa after the mics turned off? Because you were talking about this place you went for pizza, and I feel like
Julia's.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talked about pizza.
We did.
On the show.
And then I said, when the mic is off, when we're done recording, I'll tell you what it was.
All right. So Christmas tradition, of course.
Yeah.
Being in an interfaith household as I am, we go out for Chinese food on Christmas Day. And the North Country is not renowned either A, for its Chinese cuisine, or B, for having any restaurants open on Christmas Day. Although I think that I think the buffet, the Mongolian buffet is open on Christmas. But we drive to Ottawa to our favorite Chinese restaurant in Ottawa, where we gather with the other Jews.
Because Canada does not celebrate Christmas.
Right. Well, they celebrate it, but in October.
Right.
And it's 3/4 the length of.
They have a different Jesus.
They celebrate it in kilometers. No, they have a critical mass of people who would eat out at a Chinese restaurant on Christmas Day, and there's a restaurant we love there, and it always reminds me that Ottawa is very close by, which is something that you were kind of waxing eloquent about as well.
Yeah, for sure. Erin and I usually take a trip for her birthday, which is in early December, and we were there just a couple weeks ago. We were walking around, and she said to me, "Why do we always come here when it's cold and we can't actually be outside? We can come any time of the year." And we both realized, oh yeah, Ottawa's super duper close and there's so much fun stuff to do. Why don't we come when, it's springtime? Dare I say the sun is shining?
Because springtime is at a different time in Canada.
That's true.
It's in October.
Right. Well, I love Ottawa. I love their music scene there. Actually, this is a funny story. We never make plans when we make these trips. We're just well, there's a couple of restaurants we think would be nice, but otherwise we're just going to let the day take us wherever it will. And so we just gotten dinner, and she was like, "I wonder if there's a cool barcade around here." You're familiar with the concept of a barcade?
Is it an arcade where you can drink?
It is.
Okay.
Pretty simple. And we found that there was this place pretty nearby called the House of Targ.
The House of what?
Targ. So we decided to go, grab a beer, play some pinball, whatever. And we get there, we walk down the stairs, and there's a $20 cover charge. And we're like, $20 to come in and play? Oh, okay, I guess things are a little different here. And as soon as we get to the bottom of the steps and they tell us there's a cover charge, we hear this band begin playing, and there's a metal concert happening in this barcade. And I guess they're just like, that's just their thing. They do beer and arcade games, and they do metal concerts, which both of us love. And then come to find out, I talked to the bartender who books all the shows, and he knows a lot of the same people in the States that I know. And he was like, wait, are you from Potsdam? And I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, somebody was just telling me how great the music scene is in Potsdam. And so we exchanged information and gonna trade bands and stuff.
Wow.
It was cool.
They send some pinball machines over here?
No, because of the tariffs.
Oh, that's right. And plus the scores are like
There's
60%
in kilometers.
lower. Yeah. But we kid our Canadians in the audience. That's the thing about Ottawa for many of us in the North Country is we don't necessarily make that. We might know the restaurant we're going to,
right?
In a general sense. But like for me, and I don't know if it's this way for you, driving to Ottawa is really kind of no different than how I treat driving to Lake Placid or driving to Plattsburgh or Watertown or whatever. It's just like a place you go.
But because it is technically a different country, it feels like so much more effort to get there. So it doesn't immediately come into your mind.
Yeah, but once you get there, you realize it didn't take that much effort to get there.
Totally.
And so the person that we're going to hear today is
nice
an
segue.
urban sociologist from Ottawa.
Okay.
Tanya Davidson. She teaches sociology at Carleton University, and she's a writer as well. And she kind of specializes in the sociology of Ottawa. And, one of the things that I was kind of sharing with her that she excuse me, was not really aware of because I think that there are probably not a lot of Ottawans who say, hey, maybe I'll go to Potsdam for the day.
Right, yeah.
So they aren't necessarily as familiar with the idea that you could just hop in the car and an hour and 15 minutes later be in Ottawa.
Totally.
For New Yorkers as we are. I don't know if that made any sense whatsoever. But I sort of feel like Ottawa for me is I don't feel like a tourist when I'm there. I feel like, because to be a tourist, it's like it feels like it's a more momentous kind of occasion. It's like I am going to go to a place and I am going to visit some museums and I will, plot out my this is what I'm going to do.
As opposed to just like going and spending the day and seeing what happens.
It's like a neighborhood you don't go to all that often.
Well, and I also know that you're not a tourist because you're not one of those people that stands in the middle of the sidewalk and stares up at a tall building and takes a picture and everybody around you has to...
I might take pictures, but I'm also aware of my surroundings.
You've got the common courtesy to like stand off to the side and not be in the middle of the sidewalk with 18 bags of luggage. I just went to New York City not too long ago and had to experience that. I'm still bitter. Stand off to the side.
Makes you wish that there's some way to like a pedestrian horn. Because if you stopped in the middle of the street, like the cabbies would all be leaning on their horns. So why isn't there an equivalent if you're walking on the sidewalk?
We should have not only bike lanes but also tourist lanes. Of course, they probably would ignore those too.
But yeah, anyway, I don't feel like a tourist. It sounds like you don't feel like a tourist. It's just like it's a unique relationship we have with Ottawa living in this part of the North Country. And to some degree, Montreal as well.
And Cornwall for me too,
Yeah, Cornwall for sure. So it was interesting to approach this interview I did with Tanya Davidson from that standpoint because she really, in this book that she's written and in the research that she's done, the book is called Ottawology.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's fun.
She kind of pictures that there are sort of two Ottawas. There's the Ottawa that people live and work and play and, the Ottawa for Ottawans. And then, the other people who come there from other parts of Canada or other parts of the world to visit a national capital. And yet we kind of have neither of those experiences
Cool.
as New Yorkers. But yeah, her book is like one part history, one part, this is the social life of a city like Ottawa, and one part, I mean, I guess it's really a social history, and that's what sociologist does. I thought she had an uncommon ability to take sociological ideas and turn them into English language sentences that the rest of us understand. And so with that in mind, Tanya Davidson, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us.
Thank you for having me.
What were you setting out to explain with this book and the research that led to it?
Well, I had two objectives. The first was that there are two parts of the same objective. I wanted to showcase that there have been a lot of sociological studies of Ottawa that have been done and put them in one place. So I work at Carleton. And the sociology department at Carleton is the second oldest sociology department in the country. And it was founded by John Porter, who wrote The Vertical Mosaic, which is celebrated as the first large sociological study of Canada. But since then, in over 50 years of our department's history, so many Canadian sociologists became sociologists at Carleton. And as they learned to become sociologists, what did they study? They studied their local environment. So there's been so much sociology of Ottawa. None of these sociologists identify as Ottawologists, but I am posthumously, I'm putting that label on them. I'm so many people are doing sociologies of Ottawa. So my main project was to put these together and to offer a sort of comprehensive sociology of Ottawa. So there are some really great popular histories of Ottawa. But sociology also, I mean, I'm a sociologist, and I just think that more people outside of the universities should be reading sociology, that sociology has great insights for understanding our social world. So I wanted the two objectives are for people to understand Ottawa sociologically and also outside of just imagining it as the capital. And for people broadly to get excited about thinking sociologically.
Well, yeah. So how do you explain to people what an urban sociologist, because that's really what we're talking about here, what an urban sociologist does with a study like this versus what a regular old historian would do?
Yeah. So sociologists start. I mean, I can't really speak for what the goal of other disciplines. I won't speak for historians. But what sociologists start with is taking things that we take for granted about society and asking questions about them. So there's this expression of making the familiar strange. So everything that we're oh, of course, whenever people say, well, that everybody knows that something, 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 this is the beginning of sociological inquiry. Really? Is that true that suburbs are the best place to raise children? Where's the data? Has someone done an ethnographic or a quantitative research to demonstrate this? So this is where sociologists start. So they're asking questions about society today. There are historical sociologists as well, to challenge our common sense notions of society.
It's interesting to hear you say the idea maybe at the heart of sociology is to make the familiar strange. And I wonder if maybe a historian is trying to do the opposite, taking the strange and making it familiar to the rest of us.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it would be good to have a historian here in conversation. I definitely do. It is a showcase of sociology, and I'm also drawing a lot on the great historical work that's been done on Ottawa in this book.
Yeah. You kind of alluded to this, and throughout the book, you sort of make the point, and I hope I'm characterizing this correctly, that there are really several Ottawas. The one that's kind of this tourist attraction that people from other countries and other parts of Canada come and visit, and the other, which is the place that people work and shop and eat and play in. Realizing that there are other cities that are also tourist draws, is there something unique in how the two versions or multiple versions of Ottawa coexist?
Yeah, that is something that is woven throughout the book. So there, in Ottawa, and I'm sure it's similar in other national capitals, there's this tension between in Ottawa, we talk about it as a tension between the town and the crown, the people, and then the federal government complex. And the book is a lot about Ottawa, the town. So how public transit works, how the city's libraries works, how these like workplaces work for workers. So, and a lot of like Ottawans sometimes like resent being the capital, especially when things like the convoy happen. So the local regular schmoes in Ottawa are being blamed for Justin Trudeau's like, pandemic policies like that. We don't like that. But on the other hand, we can't deny that there are great benefits from being the capital as well. So having the access to the National Gallery and the museums. So there is like it's not always a tension between town and crown. We're also like the national capital needs the workers of Ottawa to be the curators and all the service industry employees. But in Ottawa also people living in Ottawa benefit as well.
It's funny as you describe this. I mean, I grew up in the Washington D.C. area, and we always kind of resented the idea that for the rest of the country, Washington was almost just a synonym for government in the same way that I think Ottawa fills that role in Canada.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's what I start. That's like the first sentence of my book is like this to challenge that idea that they're always talking about Ottawa spending, Ottawa. I'm like, we're not trying to live our lives, working at cafes and doing our thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think some of the ways, though, you're talking about this just a moment ago, some of the ways you take on your subject might surprise people. There is a full chapter, for example, on the way that trees shape the experience of people in the city. Why? Give us an example. Why are trees so important?
Yeah, so this actually is such a good segue from thinking about town and crown because Ottawa, before it was the capital, it was by town. And so the first 50 years, well, from 1800 until it was named the capital in 1850, it wasn't named by town until the 1820s. But in the first 50 years, the region as a place for white settlers grew because of the timber trade, which was all about extracting lumber from the surrounding forest and sending them straight first to England and then midway through the 19th century, then more to the United States. So as even just like a place of settler and habitation, like beyond all of Ottawa is an unceded territory of the Algonquin people. But then when settlers arrived in 1800, it was the white pine and these other massive old trees in the forest that allowed this to be developed as a sort of industrial small city. But then when it became the capital, midway through the 19th century, we continued to extract these trees. The lumber industry lasted all the 19th century. But then the second section of this chapter, I talk about the Dominion Arboretum, which maybe some of your listeners, it's a great sort of tourist attraction. It's beautiful for the locals. It's huge arboretum of trees where the tree science was in the interest of the nation. So this was again about like Ottawa as a national capital doing this research on which trees should be promoted for the Canadian prairies. So we developed, and there was this great tree breeder, Isabella Preston, who developed these species of crabapple trees, which were developed to encourage settlers in Saskatchewan to make their homesteads more, inhabitable. So, and then I talk about urban trees, which are necessary for all cities, right? Like to have, to reduce the heat island effect and to make neighborhoods livable.
And I gather that especially, at times of crisis like COVID, trees had this sort of enhanced role that, with places like parks closed, urban trees kind of almost filled that role.
Yeah, but even today, still, trees are both treated as the heroes and as villains and as victims. So there was a big issue a few years ago about a group was trying to save a bunch of 100-year-old trees, part of the arboretum, from being destroyed in the interest of building a hospital parking lot. And they were unsuccessful, and those trees are gone. So those trees are victim to urban development. But usually during times of sort of climate change, massive storms, trees, unfortunately, are imagined as the villains when they fall on cars and like power lines. But they're again being the victims. And in fact, trees are our biggest, or one of our most obvious natural sort of challenges to climate. We need trees in times of climate change to keep places cool, sequester carbon, all those things.
And maybe this shouldn't surprise us, but you also make the point that you can also look at, the neighborhoods that have the richest diversity of trees are often the ones that are the wealthiest or most affluent, and the lesser neighborhoods kind of, are the ones where we do see more clear cutting, or certainly, trees are likely to come down first before being protected.
And different quality of trees as well. Different species are planted in different neighborhoods. One of the things that is sad and sort of ironic is that Metcalf Street, which is just one street off from Elgin, is where J.R. Booth had this mansion. He was a big lumber industrialist, and it was a beautiful tree-lined street. So he enjoyed trees in his neighborhood, and he amassed his fortune from pilfering of forest. And one of the things that Booth advocated for a very long time was for the right for people in the lumber industry to dump their sawdust right into the Ottawa River. And he's like, no, it's natural. But actually sawdust was like destroying fish. The fishermen were saying there's no more fish, that it was destroying the spawning areas of fish, and it would rot at the bottom of the river, release gases, and the river would explode. So it wasn't until a very long time that finally sawdust, they would put the mills right on top of the river, so that like you would make your planks of lumber, and the sawdust would go straight in the river. Finally that became outlawed. So I think of that when I walk by Booth's house. I'm like, oh, you get to enjoy trees. Well, anyway.
You also write about civil servants. And first of all, I love the fact that there was a pub trivia team that you compete against called the Uncivil Servants.
Yeah.
And remind me, what is your team called?
I can't repeat it. It's an embarrassing name. I'm not going to tell you.
All right, fine. But what was the overriding sociological question that you wanted to investigate about civil service work in Ottawa?
Well, I just wanted to know thank you for asking that. Yeah, I haven't talked about that chapter. My big question was very broad. It's like sociologists have studied so much, like, the surveillance in universities, and like police violence against sex workers and housing issues. But there's so little sociological research on the civil service. So that was my big question. It's like, what do sociologists say about the civil service? And so then I arrived at this sort of argument that it is like a lot of critical sociologists would make the argument that the civil service is doing the heavy lifting of maintaining the capitalist status quo and the colonial status quo. But at the same time, we do live in a country that has a welfare state that has expanded in the 20th into the 21st century. And these things are also the work of civil servants. So, especially during the pandemic, obviously I have a lot of friends that are civil servants, and I know that we had CERB in Canada. We had this like income for people that were out of work during the pandemic. We have a dental care system that's expanding, and all of this stuff that the collective good that Canadians enjoy is also the work of civil servants. So we can be both critical and appreciate this labor at the same time.
You're kind of putting a face on the so-called faceless bureaucrats here.
Yeah. Well, maybe there's not too many named. They still remain pretty faceless, to be honest. But I did want to just hopefully it's an invitation for some future sociology students to ask questions about the civil service, do some of that research that's missing.
And who knew there was a Miss Civil Servant pageant back in the 50s?
Yes, so that is a colleague at Carleton, Patricia Gentile. She's done great work on that aspect of the civil service. Yeah, great.
How surreal an event must that have been?
I don't know. Yeah.
One of the things that I don't know, surprised me a little is the somewhat heroic role of kind of these average places or normal places, as you describe them. Places like local bars and libraries and city parks and little shops play as so-called third spaces. For people who might not be familiar with that term, first of all, can you give us a quick sketch of what we're talking about? But then why do these kinds of places play such a vital role in Ottawa life?
So the idea of third place is really having a moment right now. So third place, it was identified, the term was coined by a sociologist in the 1980s, Ray Oldenburg. And he said that home is first place, work or school for your children or young adult is second place. And third places are they're generally leisure places, libraries, curling clubs, bingo halls, bars, what else? Community centers, all these places, pickleball courts, etc.
Ray Oldenburg was probably not talking about pickleball courts in those days, though.
But I'm sure he'd appreciate it. No. And they do such important work of socialization, actually. So we talk in sociology, we talk about how socialization is ongoing, it's lifelong. People are socialized into old age, you're socialized into new roles, like being a parent or new jobs, etc. These third places also really challenge ageism. So a lot of ageism emerges because of the social segregation of people. That you go through life, like often, especially in school, people born in your same calendar year. So if you're an old person, you never see children, you might just, kids these days, right? But at your local whatever arena, you might not even get to know, but just see people in different ages, and it might challenge your understanding. So third places, Oldenburg says that they're very significant of doing this sort of heavy lifting of maintaining civility in society, of making people engage with different people in a very accessible, low stakes environment. It's not like you're voting, or it's not like you're at work where there's a hierarchy. You're just hanging out. So you can have different opinions if you're just hanging out. You can always just leave, or you can be like, oh, interesting, right?
And so not necessarily any more so in Ottawa than anywhere else, but they do play this pretty big role in maintaining the quality of life in Ottawa.
Absolutely, just like everywhere else, for sure. So in so many ways, this book, it's not saying it's an Ottawa specific book that has like parallel. Ottawa's not. It's exceptional in certain ways, but in other ways, no, not. We should think about these things in other places. But like without third places, we saw during the pandemic, a lot of people's first and third places collapsed. You just work from home, or you continued to work and then came home. But the third places, there was no substitute for them during the pandemic. And we see that there's more like political polarization, and third places are important for individuals and society. They're really at that sort of intersection. So in Ottawa, one of the things I would also always say about third places is that one characteristic of them is that they're home-like. They're like, you're home away from home. Third places, to be successful, do not need to feel like home, away from home, for everybody. So one person's third place will not be someone else's third place. To have an inclusive, vibrant city, it's not that everybody feels comfortable everywhere, but more that everybody has some place outside of home and work where they do feel comfortable. So I would say, like myself, I don't play basketball. I don't care. What's it to me, basketball courts? But I am very passionate that there should be basketball courts in my neighborhood, so that place, for people who love that, those people have a place to hang out, just as I just like the bar at the hotel across the street. That's fine. But the kids playing basketball, they're not going to hang out there. So there should just be a variety of places.
Would you say is the Rideau Canal a third place?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, seasonal and temperamental. There was a few years ago, it didn't open at all, and that was devastating. I would say that one of the things about this book, a lot of sociology is identifying social problems, offering some sort of like diagnoses, and that is a big part of sociology. But sociology is fundamentally studying the social world and what we create together. and that it is not all bad. The sociologists also look at things that are working, that are functional, and I am never more inspired by Ottawa society than when I'm walking across the little footbridge near my apartment in my boots very safely and looking down on the huge crowds on the canal. I mean, skating, it's harder than it looks. It's kind of rough, but people have a lot of skating skill. And what's so delightful for me about the skating on the Rideau Canal is there's such this high level of collective effervescence, a high level of people enjoying being with other people, and there's no big beaver tail benefiting. I mean, they do benefit, but except for the skill level, there's pretty low barrier to access. You can rent skates, you can try it out. Even there's some sleighs, there's some low barriers to access. They don't allow hockey, so that doesn't make it a very once you add hockey to a skating surface, it becomes exclusive immediately. But when you say no hockey, there's way more people that can enter into that space. So it's just people enjoying the space together, and it is very heartening.
Well, and I wonder if it's one of the few places where people from away and Ottawans really, truly do mix.
Yeah, that's a really good insight. It's true. It's a huge tourist attraction that is simultaneously loved by locals. It is, but even beyond the Rideau Canal, the Rideau River, when it freezes, neighbors get together and clear off skating rinks. And there's other places, there's skating through the forest. So this collective work of making these seasonal third places, it really also energizes communities, even if they're sort of ad hoc just for that project.
Do you think, would there be some virtue in Ottawa telling this broader story of itself to the rest of Canada and the world?
Yeah, sure.
I guess it couldn't hurt, right?
Couldn't hurt. I mean, I'm not working for the Ottawa Tourism Bureau. They've got employees. They can do that. It's the bigger, I think, there's so many different chapters that tell their own stories, and you can find parallels. There's some things that I really would like other people in Canada to pay attention to. For example, there's a chapter on getting housed. And a lot of people, and I just talked to people, and they don't realize that Canada's largest mass eviction happened in Ottawa around 2018. It was very recently when these developers in the neighborhood in South Ottawa, in the neighborhood's called Harringate, overwhelmingly the neighborhood are Somali immigrants to Canada, women-led families who were forcibly evicted in a couple of different waves so that the developers could build more high-end rental housing. And that was possible because of sort of an erosion in renters' rights, political indifference, and also local politicians being supported by the developer. So there's some stories in here that will find parallels in other parts of the country, which I hope people would read and try to understand something more about the source of the affordable housing crisis and things like that. I would more encourage, yes, people should read Ottawology, and also it would be great if other sociologists did sociologies of their cities that were written for public audiences so we can understand the rest of the country as well.
Well, you have an uncommon ability as a sociologist to make this stuff understandable to the rest of us, so well done.
Oh, thank you. Thanks a lot.
And Tanya Davidson, it was a delight to chat with you. Thank you so much for sharing the story of Ottawology.
Well, thank you for having me.
Tanya Davidson is a professor of sociology, specializing in urban sociology at Carleton University in Ottawa. Her new book is called Ottawology, and it is available in both the United States and in Canada, of course, as well. She spoke with us from Ottawa. And Ethan Shanty, it's kind of whet my appetite to go back there. Unfortunately, as we're having this conversation, I'll be heading to Ottawa in just a short amount of time for my Christmas dinner.
I know that you don't drink, but try to hit up the House of Targ if you're a fan of pinball machines. Are you a pinball guy?
I like pinball. Yeah, I'm much more of a fan of I was going to call it acoustic, analog pinball, like actual the physical pinball as opposed to like video arcade machines. I kind of exhausted my expertise after Ms. Pac-Man.
I see. They do have Miss Pac-Man. They also have Guitar Hero. This is not an ad for House of Targ. They haven't paid us anything. My first apartment ever, I was living with a bunch of guys, as you do generally in your first apartment because you have no money. But we got really, really, really into video pinball. And we were competing pretty fiercely. I don't really remember much of that time, and I'll let you speculate as to why. But
you were simply having a wonderful Christmas time.
Having a wonderful Christmas time. But my friend Tyler got a nickname during those competitions, and the nickname persists today, and it was the Curve.
Oh.
So, Tyler, if you're listening...
Shout out to Tyler the Curve.
Keep curving.
My best video game story actually is my wife's video game story.
Okay.
And we were living in Flagstaff, Arizona, and she was working on her master's degree, and she was at the point where all she had to do was finish her master's thesis.
Okay.
And I think she will concede that it took longer than otherwise would have taken because she was constantly distracted by the ability she had on our PC at the time to play Microsoft Golf.
Is Gretchen a golfer?
She is not a golfer in any way. And this was long enough ago that it was like a literal joystick.
Right,
like the thing that you held vertically with a button on the top and, a button on the side, and, you pull it back anyway.
Yeah.
She was a monster at Microsoft Golf.
I can attest now that I am still paying in my student loans for many, many days where I skipped class so I could play Guitar Hero.
Well, Ethan, you are our very own Guitar Hero, but why don't you mention some of the other heroes that put together this show each and every week with wishes for their happy holidays?
Northwards is an NCPR podcast production. The show is written, produced, and edited by Mitch Tyke with digital production supervision by me. I'm Ethan Shanty. Caitlin Kelly handles our social media. Bill Hanel is our digital director, and Doyle Dean is our production manager. To find out more about the show and to make a financial gift in support of Northwards, head to ncpr.org/Northwards. This is NCPR. Wait, I have a cramp in my leg. Our theme music is by the Wickmore Jazz Trio of Plattsburgh.
I think leg cramps was actually the reason for a wonderful Christmas time, actually.
Our theme music is by the Wickmore Jazz Trio of Plattsburgh for NCPR.
You said that already.
I know. This is North Country Public. This is whatever. This is NCPR, North Country Public Radio.